The night glittered over New York City, every skyscraper window flickering like a jewel. Outside the Witmore Grand Hotel, spotlights carved bright arcs through the darkness, cameras snapping in a frenzy as the elite of the city stepped onto the red carpet. Inside, the grand hall glowed with a kind of beauty only money could buy. Crystal chandeliers scattered gold across the marble floor. Women in flowing gowns glided past men in tuxedos, their polite smiles masking the sharp edge of social competition. Marcus Reed wasn't one of them. He pushed a cleaning cart down a quiet corridor, the rags neatly folded, the bottles lined up in perfect order. 5 years at the Witmore had taught him the unspoken rules: keep to the shadows, move without noise, never draw attention. He knew the coded gestures, the way guests' eyes slid over him as though he were invisible, the subtle step aside to keep workers out of photographs. Earlier that evening, his manager had clapped him on the shoulder. "Marcus, use the service elevator. Buddy, don't cross the main hall while guests are being photographed." The word buddy was friendly enough, but it wasn't personal. No one here wanted to really know him. That's when she appeared, Claudia Witmore, billionaire heiress, hotel owner's daughter, and queen of the evening. Her diamond necklace caught the light like a captive star as she glanced at Marcus with amused disdain. "You clean floors, right?" she said, voice dripping with mockery. Then she gestured toward the glossy black grand piano near the stage. "Tell you what, if you can play that piano, I'll marry you." Laughter bubbled around her like champagne, a few guests smirking at the absurdity. Marcus simply nodded once and returned to his cart. But that wasn't the end of it. Later that night, when the band took a break and the gala's chatter filled the air, Marcus quietly slipped into the main hall. His hands brushed over the polished surface of the grand piano. He sat down. The first note rang out, clear, pure, and impossibly beautiful. Heads turned. Conversations faltered. His fingers danced across the keys, not with the clumsy touch they expected, but with mastery, weaving a melody so alive it seemed to breathe. The music rose and fell like a story, each note carrying the weight of years unseen. By the time he struck the final chord, the room was utterly still. Claudia Witmore stood frozen, her eyes wide with something that might have been respect or regret. Marcus rose, nodded politely to the silent crowd, and walked away, leaving behind the echo of a truth none of them could ignore. Greatness can come from anywhere, even from the man who sweeps the floor. New York shimmered that night. The sky above was black velvet, the streets below awash in golden light. Outside the Witmore Grand Hotel, spotlights swept like restless angels, camera flashes stinging the air as celebrities and power brokers strolled the red carpet. Inside, the grand hall was a cathedral of wealth. Crystal chandeliers spilled molten gold over polished marble floors. Women in silk gowns brushed past men in hand-tailored suits, laughter and polite murmurs weaving through the air like smoke. Marcus Reed kept to the shadows. He pushed his cleaning cart along the side corridor, each rag folded as neatly as if it were part of a ritual. 5 years of working here had taught him the rhythm of invisibility, the polite but distant nods, the way eyes slipped past his face to look for someone important, the quiet rules that kept people like him out of the spotlight. Earlier, his manager had patted his shoulder and said, "Marcus, use the service elevator. Buddy, don't cross the main hall while they're taking photos." The word buddy landed like an empty coin, shiny, but of no real value. Then she appeared. Claudia Witmore, heiress, billionaire, the kind of beautiful that knew it, wore it, and charged interest on it. She was draped in diamonds and something sharper, arrogance. Her gaze slid over him like she was deciding whether or not to laugh. "You clean floors, right?" she asked. Without waiting for an answer, she tilted her head toward the gleaming grand piano by the stage. "Tell you what, if you can play that piano, I'll marry you." A few guests chuckled, the kind of laugh that lives just shy of cruelty. Marcus didn't respond. He simply met her gaze for a second longer than polite, then pushed his cart away. Hours later, the band took a break, and the room filled with idle conversation and the pop of champagne corks. No one noticed the janitor in the dark suit jacket that had been hanging in the staff room for years. No one noticed until the first note. It wasn't loud, but it was perfect, pure as rain on glass. Heads turned. Marcus's hands moved with effortless precision, weaving a melody that filled the hole with something no amount of money could buy. The music swelled, rich and alive, carrying a story that no one had ever heard but somehow felt in their bones. When the last chord faded, the room stood frozen. Claudia Witmore's smirk had vanished. Her lips parted as if she meant to speak, but no words came. Marcus rose from the piano bench. "Good night," he said simply, and walked toward the service door. Every eye followed him. No one knew where he had learned to play like that. No one knew the past he carried. But before the night was over, they would. New York glittered that evening as if it had dressed itself for the gala. The streets glowed, the air hummed, and outside the Witmore Grand Hotel, spotlights swept the night sky like restless searchlights. Red carpet stretched across the entrance, and cameras exploded in flashes as the city's wealthiest flowed inside. The Grand Hall was a masterpiece of marble and crystal. Chandeliers rained golden light over guests in evening gowns and tailored tuxedos. Waiters glided through the crowd with trays of champagne, their movements as rehearsed as a polite laughter echoing through the room. Marcus Reed wasn't a guest. He pushed a cleaning cart down a quiet corridor, the wheels squeaking faintly over polished floors. The rags in the cart were folded with military precision, the cleaning bottles lined up like soldiers at attention. He knew the unspoken rules of this place. Walk where you won't be seen, work without being heard, and always let the spotlight belong to someone else. Earlier, his manager had clapped him on the shoulder. "Marcus, use the service elevator. Buddy, don't cross the main hall while they're taking photos." The smile had been polite. The word buddy had been empty. That's when she appeared. Claudia Witmore, heiress to the hotel empire, dressed in a gown worth more than Marcus's yearly salary. Diamonds spilled light across her collarbone as she looked him over with cool amusement. "You clean floors, right?" she said, her voice a silk ribbon tied around something sharp. Without waiting for his answer, she nodded toward the glossy black grand piano near the stage. "Tell you what, if you can play that piano, I'll marry you." A ripple of laughter drifted through the nearby guests. Marcus didn't laugh. He didn't even smile. He just held her gaze for a heartbeat, then turned and pushed his cart away. Hours later, the band took a break. The chatter swelled. The clinking of glasses filled the silence where music had been. That's when Marcus walked into the main hall. He didn't wear the uniform now, just a simple black suit jacket from the staff closet. No one noticed him until he sat down at the piano. The first note rang out, clear and perfect. Heads turned. Conversation faltered. His fingers moved like they had been born to the keys, pulling music out of the air as if it had always been there, waiting for him. The melody rose, then softened, weaving through the hall with a voice richer than any speech given that night. When he stopped, the silence was deafening. Claudia Witmore's smirk was gone. She looked at him like she had never seen him before. Marcus stood, gave a small nod to the room, and walked toward the service door. No one followed him, but they would, because after that night, Marcus Reed's name would not stay in the shadows. The Witmore Grand Hotel had never looked more alive. Outside, the night sky glowed with restless spotlights, their beams slicing across the clouds. The red carpet shimmered under the heels of the city's elite as camera flashes burst like fireworks. Inside, wealth dripped from every detail. The chandeliers spilling gold over the marble floors, the velvet drapes heavy with dustless perfection, the quiet string quartet playing to the rhythm of champagne being poured. In a side corridor, far from the main hall's light, Marcus Reed pushed a cleaning cart. The scent of polish trailed behind him. Each cloth was folded neatly, each bottle lined up in precise order. 5 years in this hotel had taught him how to disappear in plain sight. The manager's voice still echoed from earlier that evening. Marcus, use the service elevator. Buddy, don't cross the main hall when guests are arriving. The word buddy had been warm enough, but it was a kind of warmth that kept its coat on. Then she appeared. Claudia Witmore. Flawless hair, diamonds bright enough to catch the light of every camera. She looked at Marcus as though he were a curiosity she'd stumbled upon. You clean floors, right? She asked, not waiting for his answer. She glanced toward the grand piano at the far end of the hall, its black surface glowing under the chandeliers. Tell you what, if you can play that piano, I'll marry you. The guest nearby chuckled softly, the way people laugh at a joke they think everyone understands. Marcus simply looked at her for a moment, his eyes unreadable, then went back to his cart. Hours later, the gala was in full swing. The quartet had taken their break, and the hum of conversation filled the room. No one noticed the janitor slip in through the side door and walk to the piano. The first note was soft, almost shy, but so clear it cut through the air like light through glass. Heads began to turn. Marcus's hands moved across the keys with impossible grace, coaxing out a melody that sounded like memory itself, sweet, aching, and alive. By the time the final chord faded, the whole was silent. Even the waiters stood frozen. Claudia Witmore stared at him, her face stripped of its practiced smile. Marcus rose, straightened his jacket, and walked toward the service door without a word. They would ask about him. They would wonder who he was. But none of them, not even Claudia, was ready for the answer. The Witmore Grand Hotel was a building that seemed to breathe elegance. That night, it wasn't just alive, it was electric. Spotlights clawed at the Manhattan sky, sweeping over clouds that rolled like smoke above the city. The red carpet unfurled like a royal banner down the steps, shimmering under strobe-like bursts of camera flashes. Black sedans and stretched limos glided up to the entrance, each door opening to reveal another jewel of New York's high society. Inside, the air was thick with perfume, champagne, and money. Crystal chandeliers hung like frozen waterfalls, spilling golden light over marble floors polished so perfectly they looked like still water. Velvet drapes framed towering windows, and a string quartet tucked in the corner played a waltz that wrapped itself around the room like silk. Marcus Reed stood far away from it all, in a narrow side corridor with a scent of lemon polish and detergent clinging to the air. His cleaning cart was an island of order, claws folded to exact angles, bottles lined in rows, mop head freshly washed. 4 or 5 years he had moved through these halls like a shadow, learning the etiquette of invisibility. He knew the rules here. Never cross the main hall during an event. Stay out of the photographer's frames. Keep your name badge visible but forgettable. Earlier that evening, his manager had given the familiar warning with a pat on the shoulder. Marcus, use the service elevator. Buddy, don't cross the main hall when the guests are coming in. We don't want you caught in a shot, you know? The smile had been friendly enough, but the word buddy carried the gentle weight of a door closing. That was when she appeared. Claudia Witmore, the only daughter of Howard Witmore, owner of the hotel chain that carried their name in cities across the world. Her entrance into the corridor was as deliberate as a presence anywhere, every step calculated for effect. She wore a midnight blue gown that seemed to drink the light, and around her neck glittered a diamond necklace that could probably pay off the mortgages of everyone on the cleaning staff. She stopped in front of Marcus, looking him over with an expression that hovered between curiosity and amusement. You clean floors, right? Her tone was light, but carried the precision of someone used to being obeyed. She turned her gaze toward the grand piano in the main hall, its polished surface reflecting the chandelier's glow like black glass. Tell you what, if you can play that piano, I'll marry you. A few guests nearby chuckled, that kind of champagne soft laughter people use when they think they are in on the joke. Marcus didn't smile. He didn't frown either. He just looked at her for a beat longer than was comfortable, then quietly returned to his wake, pushing the cart down the corridor without a word. The gala swelled on without him. Speeches were made. Champagne flutes were emptied. Laughter rose in waves beneath the chandeliers. The string quartet played on until they finally set down their bows and stepped away for a break. The piano stood alone. From the service entrance to the side of the hall, Marcus appeared, not in his work polo, but in a simple black suit jacket that had hung in the staff closet for years. Most people didn't notice him at first. The few that did assumed he was a quiet guest who had wandered over to the instrument. Then came the first note. It wasn't loud, but it was flawless, pure and resonant, cutting through the background noise like a bell through fog. Conversation faltered. Faces turned toward the sound. Marcus's fingers moved over the keys like they had been born there, pulling music from the air with an ease that made it seem inevitable. The melody grew, soft at first, then richer, deeper, filling every corner of the hall. It wasn't a song they recognized, but it felt like something they had always known, like the memory of a lullaby from childhood or a love story they had almost lived. The music rose and fell in waves, carrying the weight of something unspoken, something too big for words. By the time the last chord hung in the air, the entire hall was still. No glasses clinked. No voices murmured. Even the waiters stood frozen. Claudia Witmore was among them, her head tilted slightly, her eyes fixed on him. The smirk was gone. In its place was something unreadable, part curiosity, part disbelief. Marcus stood, smoothed his jacket, and offered the faintest nod. Then he turned and walked toward the service door. People would ask who he was. They would whisper about the janitor who played like a concert pianist. But none of them, not even Claudia, was prepared for the truth. Because Marcus Reed was not just a man with a hidden talent. He was a man with a past. And that past was about to walk right back into his life. Morning light spilled across Manhattan like gold poured from the sky. The city roared to life. Taxis honking, subway doors chiming, coffee carts clattering on street corners. In the Witmore penthouse suite, Claudia Witmore sat at the breakfast table with a cup of black coffee, staring at the city skyline. She wasn't thinking about the board meeting she had that afternoon, or the fundraiser's record-breaking donations, or even the fact that 3 different society pages had called her the crown jewel of the gala. She was thinking about the janitor. She'd gone to bed hearing that music, notes swirling in her mind long after the last one had faded. It wasn't just skill. It was a kind of playing that came from somewhere deeper, somewhere most people never reached. And it had come from him. Her phone buzzed. A text from her assistant, Isla. Found him. Name's Marcus Reed. Been working here 5 years. No family listed. Lives in Brooklyn. Claudia smiled faintly. Brooklyn, she murmured, as if it were another country. Marcus was in the staff lounge on the hotel's lower level, sitting at a scarred wooden table with a mug of tea and a folded newspaper. His uniform polo was clean, his badge polished, his cart ready for the day. He'd worked the morning shift 1,000 times, but this one felt different. He'd felt eyes on him all night after the performance. He could hear the whispers in the hallways this morning, the chef asking the server if he'd known about the piano thing, the concierge muttering something about hidden talents. Marcus didn't mind attention. He just didn't seek it. He had reasons for staying in the shadows. And one of those reasons was walking toward him right now. Claudia Witmore stepped into the lounge like the room had been built to receive her. The other staff rose, pretending to be busy while stealing glances. Marcus, she said, as though they were old acquaintances. He looked up, calm, unreadable. Ms. Witmore. She smiled, but it was a kind that hid more than it revealed. You play beautifully. Where did you learn? He sipped his tea. Here and there. She tilted her head. Hey, and it doesn't make someone play like that. You've had training. Serious training. Marcus said nothing. She pulled out a chair, sitting across from him. You know, I don't like being surprised, Marcus. But you surprise me. And I want to know why a man who plays like he was cleaning floors in my hotel. He met her gaze, steady. Some people have their reason for where they end up. There was a moment of silence, tense, but not hostile. Claudia leaned forward. Come to the main hall tonight. Play again. Not for a bet this time. For me. Marcus's jaw tightened, almost imperceptibly. No. The word landed like a door slamming shut. Claudia blinked, caught off guard. No, she repeated, as if she hadn't heard the word in years. Marcus stood, gathering his things. Some stages are better left behind. And then he walked out, leaving her staring after him. By that evening, Claudia was restless. She didn't like loose ends. She didn't like mysteries. She had called Islo again, demanding more information. This time, her assistant hesitated before speaking. Claudia, you might want to leave this alone. Marcus Reed, he used to be someone. The words hooked her curiosity deeper. Someone, a prodigy, played Carnegie Hall at 17. Then, something happened. He vanished from the music world. No one knows why. Claudia's mind was already racing. She didn't believe in coincidences, and she certainly didn't believe in wasted potential. If Marcus Reed thought he could walk away from whatever past he was hiding, he was wrong. She would find out the truth, and she would bring him back to the stage, whether he wanted it or not.